It was during one of those relaxed chats, while we were sitting on the couch tossing around ideas for our future home, that I blurted it out. What if we had separate bedrooms? Hey, this is Aaron. The day we met still feels like it happened just yesterday, even though a few years have passed. I recall walking into the coffee shop, barely awake, considering turning around and going back to bed, but then I saw her, Luke, sitting by the window with her nose buried in a book. She had this quiet, effortless confidence about her, the kind that made me want to know more. It wasn't just her looks, though she was undeniably beautiful. It was the way she seemed so at ease in her own world. I don't know why, but something about that drew me in. I walked up to her, trying to act casual. Is this seat taken? I asked, pointing to the chair across from her. She looked up, smiling warmly, and said, No, it's all yours. I sat down, unsure of where to begin. I hadn't planned this, but she made it easy. What are you reading? I asked, pointing to the book in her hands. She glanced at the cover and shrugged slightly. It's a novel I've read a few times. It's like revisiting an old friend, you know? Sometimes you just need something familiar. I nodded, genuinely intrigued. I get that. I've got a couple of books I've read so many times I've lost count. They just feel right. Her eyes brightened. Exactly. It's like the comfort food of books. What about you? What do you read? And just like that, we started talking about books, music, and everything in between. It didn't feel like small talk. It felt like a real conversation. She didn't rush me to answer or interrupt, just listened. I could see her thinking, and it made me feel like everything I said mattered. So, what do you do when you're not reading? I asked after a while, leaning back in my chair. She smiled, but it wasn't flirtatious. It was genuine, like she really liked the question. I work for a nonprofit. It's mostly community outreach, organizing events, and helping with donations. It's busy, but I like knowing I'm making a difference. She paused, searching for a reaction. What about you? I work in tech, I said, almost mechanically. I knew it sounded dull, but she didn't flinch. Tech's good. Pays well, right? She said, raising an eyebrow. We need people like you. I chuckled, surprised. Yeah, I guess it's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. We continued to talk effortlessly, so engrossed in our conversation that I barely noticed the time slipping by. Eventually, I checked my phone and realized it was later than I thought. I should probably head out, I said, standing up reluctantly. She stood too, her book tucked under her arm. Yeah, me too, she said, then smiled again, this time with more warmth. It was nice talking to you, Aaron. I'm glad you came over. Me too, I said, feeling an odd sense of certainty. We should do this again sometime. Definitely, she agreed. We exchanged numbers, and just like that, I was hooked. We didn't waste any time. Over the next few weeks, we saw each other more and more, talking about everything family, dreams, the big stuff. It felt like we were on the same wavelength. I admired Lucy for her independence. She had this fierce streak, always going after what she wanted, never afraid to speak her mind. But there was also a softness to her, a side that showed how deeply she cared for the people in her life. One evening, we were sitting on my couch watching a movie when she suddenly turned to me. You know, I've been thinking about something, she said, her voice serious. Okay, hit me, I replied, glancing at her. I don't think I'm ready to give up my apartment just yet. Maybe until we're married, she said, looking a little hesitant but firm. I love you, but I really need that space for myself. I need my own place, you know? It's not that I don't want to live with you. It's just about my independence. I paused, trying to process her words. I get it, I said slowly. You don't want to lose that part of yourself. Exactly, she said, her eyes softening. I need that space. It doesn't change anything between us, I promise. I nodded, though a part of me felt a little taken aback. I had always envisioned us moving in together as a natural step. But hearing her explain it, I understood. Lucy was different from anyone I'd met. She wasn't afraid to stand her ground and do what felt right for her. And that was one of the reasons I loved her. A few months later, I proposed. We were sitting on the same couch, the soft hum of the city outside the window, and I asked her to marry me. I don't even remember exactly what I said. It all blurred together in a rush of emotions, just this overwhelming feeling of needing to do it right then. She stared at the ring, blinking a few times like she couldn't believe it was happening. Aaron, she whispered, her voice shaky. Yes, yes, of course, I'll marry you. Her joy was contagious, and in that moment, everything felt perfect. We hugged, laughed, and talked about what we wanted for our future, a home, a life together. I could picture it already. Simple things like waking up to her sleepy smile, making coffee together, cooking dinner, sharing space. It wasn't about grand gestures or big plans. It was about the quiet moments we'd create. Everything just felt right with Lucy. Hey there, I'm Lucy. I've always thought I knew who I was, or at least I thought I did. I spent years fiercely maintaining my independence, building a life where my space, my time, and my choices were all mine and mine alone. Growing up, I never had the luxury of depending on anyone else for emotional support. My parents were loving, but they weren't emotionally available. I learned early that to survive, I needed to have control over myself and my space. Independence wasn't just a preference, it was a necessity. So when Aaron came into my life, it was like something clicked. He was everything I could want: kind, supportive, funny, and smart. But I noticed something about him that was different. He was used to relationships being more merged, where people, and even their spaces, blended together. While I loved him deeply, I was constantly torn between wanting intimacy and maintaining my deep seated need for autonomy. It wasn't that I didn't want to be close to him, I did, but there was a part of me that panicked at the thought of losing my individuality, of completely losing myself in someone else. I couldn't let go of that, not yet. One evening, during one of those casual chats, while we were sitting on the couch tossing around ideas for our future home, I blurted it out. What if we had separate bedrooms? I could tell by his expression that he didn't quite understand. He furrowed his brow and let out a small laugh. Wait, what? His voice was amused, like I was joking. I'm serious, I said, trying to sound casual, though my heart was racing. I'd never said this aloud before. I think it'd be good for us to have our own rooms. It's not that I don't want to be close to you. Trust me, I love you. But we'd have more space to do our own things: hobbies, reading, work. I think it'd give us both the time we need to stay connected without getting too comfortable. He blinked, clearly thrown off. His lips parted like he was searching for the right words, but I could tell he was processing it. I mean, we're supposed to be building a life together, right? A house with separate bedrooms feels a little weird, doesn't it? My stomach tightened, but I pushed through. It's not weird. It's actually kind of progressive. A lot of couples do it. Don't you think it could be good for us? We could still be around each other, but have our own space. It's about not letting the little things drive us crazy and keeping the spark alive. I could see his expression change. The amused smile faded, replaced by a look of confusion. I don't know, Lucy. I just don't see how separate rooms would work for us. I mean, don't we want to be close? Doesn't that feel like the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing? I could feel his discomfort growing, and my stomach twisted again. His words stung in a way I wasn't quite ready for. I was asking for something he didn't understand, and that was hard to accept. But I couldn't back down. I needed this. I needed to keep a part of myself that wasn't just about us. I know it sounds strange, I said, my voice steady even though my pulse was quicker now. But think about it. I'm not saying we won't be close or that we won't share our lives. I'm saying that having space for ourselves, our own interests, our own time, will make our relationship stronger. We won't lose ourselves in each other. We'll stay ourselves, and that'll make the time we do spend together even more meaningful. He sat back, arms crossed, struggling to wrap his mind around it. I guess I always thought that when you get married or whatever, you just do everything together. It's about merging, right? I felt a rush of guilt, but I quickly pushed it aside. Aaron didn't get it, but I couldn't just let go of this need for space, not for anyone, not even for him. I get why you think that, I said softly now. But I've always been like this, even before we met. I had my own space, my own life. It's not about pushing you away, Aaron. It's about keeping a part of me so I can be the best partner I can be for you. Does that make sense? He didn't respond immediately. I watched him process my words, his brow furrowing. I could tell he wasn't convinced, but I hoped he'd come around eventually. The idea of separate bedrooms kept turning over in my mind, each time feeling heavier. It was hard to shake the feeling of being blindsided. Lucy and I had talked about everything: our plans, our future, our shared dreams. I thought we were on the same page, moving toward the same life, but this was different. I can't quite explain it, but it felt like a crack in the foundation I thought we had built together. I had always believed that intimacy, in its truest form, was about closeness. Not just physically, but emotionally, too. Being there for each other, sharing everything, space, thoughts, dreams, was how I understood love. I had imagined a future where we woke up in the same bed every morning, worked through challenges side by side, and found comfort in each other's presence. So when Lucy suggested separate bedrooms, I couldn't help but feel a little hurt. It wasn't about the idea of her needing space. I understood that. Hell, I even value my own time to unwind. But something about it felt like she was pulling away, creating a distance I wasn't sure how to bridge. And that's when my doubts started creeping in. How could we be building a life together if we couldn't share the most basic parts of it? The things that, to me, symbolize the connection we were supposed to have. I tried to talk to her about it one evening after dinner, when the conversation seemed like it was winding down. I brought it up again. Lucy, I get needing space. I do. But separate bedrooms? I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me. She looked at me, calm as ever, like this was just another normal conversation. I've explained this, Aaron. It's not about you. It's not about us not being close. It's just, then what? I interrupted, my voice rising before I could stop it. What's the point of being so far apart when we're supposed to be building something together? I don't know if I'm okay with that. Her brow furrowed slightly, but her tone remained steady. It doesn't mean I don't love you, Aaron. I need my own space. It helps me stay grounded, to focus on what's important. And when I have that, I'm better for you. I'm a better partner. I wanted to understand, I really did. But it felt like I was losing grip on something I thought we had. I came to understand something that had been the basis of my beliefs about relationships. I wasn't ready to simply accept her reasoning. I couldn't shake the feeling that my needs were secondary to hers, like I was being dismissed. Our conversations became repetitive, each one more frustrating than the last. Every time I tried to explain how important closeness was to me, how I needed physical proximity to feel connected, she reassured me that she wasn't trying to shut me out. But her words never seemed to match the growing distance between us. I couldn't stop feeling that we were no longer on the same path. I started questioning whether this was what our future looked like. Two separate lives under one roof. Where did that leave me? The more I thought about it, the more conflicted I felt. I wanted to respect her boundaries, but I couldn't ignore the feeling that we were on different wavelengths. Was it too much for me to want the closeness I needed? Or was it too much for her to expect me to live with a distance I wasn't sure I could overcome? I wasn't sure if I could compromise, and I wasn't sure if I should. It's hard not to wonder if this is the first of many issues we'll struggle to reconcile. If something as simple as separate bedrooms causes this much tension, what else lies ahead? And maybe that's the real question. Is our relationship strong enough to handle these differences? Or is this just the start of a much bigger divide? I know he's in pain. I can see it in the way he avoids looking at me, and the tremble in his voice when he speaks. But I also know that I can't give up what's important to me, now or ever. I don't think this is something I can compromise on. Lucy, Aaron finally says, his voice soft but firm. It's not about the bedroom, it's about what they symbolize. I need to feel like we're building something together, and right now it feels like we're drifting apart. His words hit me harder than I expected, like a sharp pang in my chest. I've always known we were different, but this is the moment when those differences are too big to ignore. I had hoped we could find a middle ground, that we could work through this like we've managed with other issues. But this isn't something we can compromise on without sacrificing what's crucial to both of us. I know you need closeness, I whisper softly, barely audible, but I need space. I need time to recharge, to be myself. Without that, I can't be the partner you need me to be. I know, he says, running a hand through his hair, but it feels like you're asking for more space than I can handle. I'm not sure I can live with that, not in a marriage. We sit in silence for a long time, the weight of everything pressing down on us. The tension is thick in the air. This is it, the point where everything we've built begins to crumble, because our core beliefs about relationships are too different. I wish things were different, I say, my voice cracking despite my effort to stay composed. I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you, but I can't change who I am. I can't change the need for independence that has always been a part of me. I know, Aaron replies quietly. I can't change what I need either, and I don't think we can change each other, not on this. We sit there for a while longer, both of us processing the enormity of what we're saying. We love each other, that much is clear. But love isn't enough to bridge the gap between us, not this time. Eventually, I stand, slowly gathering my things. I can feel the tears welling up in my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. This isn't how I thought things would end. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We were supposed to have a future together, but now I'm walking away from someone I deeply care about. I guess this is it, I say, my voice thick with emotion. We've tried. I thought we could make it work, but we're just too different. Aaron looks at me, his eyes filled with sadness, but also a sort of resignation. I don't want this, Lucy. but I can't ignore what we both need anymore. I want to be with someone who shares the same vision of what a relationship should be. I know, I say, nodding as if the words will somehow make this easier. I want the same thing, but I can't pretend to be someone I'm not. As I head for the door, I pause and glance back at him. There's so much I want to say, so much I want to tell him, but the words are stuck somewhere deep inside, tangled with the guilt, regret, and love still lingering between us. I'm sorry, I say softly, and then I leave. I don't look back. There are times when I wonder if I could have compromised more, maybe tried harder to meet him halfway, but deep down I know I made the right choice. Staying true to myself, to what I need, is the only way forward. If I'd given that up, I wouldn't have been able to be the partner I want to be in the future. It's not about Aaron, it's about me. Aaron moves on. He starts dating again and meets someone who shares his vision of intimacy, someone who desires the same kind of connection. I hope he finds what he's looking for, just as I hope I do. In the end, love isn't always enough. Sometimes, the most important things are the values we hold, the things we believe will make us happy. And when those things don't align, no matter how much you care about someone, it's just not enough. We both deserve more than what we had, and we both need to find partners who fit the lives we envision. As bittersweet as it is, I have to accept that we weren't meant to be.